is the first to bring Sint Unum to prominence. He doesn't really explain much except that he has the heading Sint Unum, but he considered Sint Unum essential, the foundation stone of the whole project. That's quite clear, and I think that's his part, his main part in the thing, that he it was who brought forth that sentence and made it the foundation of his project. And Louis Unum, to go rather quickly over the three of them, Louis Unum took up Sint Unum, but she developed it because now the situation was slightly different. The first Sint Unum, if I may speak so, the first Sint Unum was a pact between three people, and it was a wonderful pact. It was between three people who were persecuted, and yet they had a vision of spreading the news of the Lord's love for humanity throughout the universe. That tickles me, because they changed the word universe sometime later and it became throughout the world, or I forget what, but I love the word universe.
Yes.
Then Louise Unum came, and she naturally adopted Sint Unum as her lodestone, but it was different. There were 10 people concerned, and she had a vision of the future. This was for these 10 people were to spread the good news of God's love for the world. And that was why they were called. She says that's why they were called, to spread this good news. And she develops it. It must remain. She develops the thing where they must remain united. And she has things to say about that. So that's her development of the thing. And she says specifically why they were called into this group, this family, to enter fully into the spirit of Christianity. That's there from the start in our history, that Sint Unum is the spirit of Christianity, and we are really going to the heart of things by going into Sint Unum, if I may use such words.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Botha had another view. I won't say a different view. He had the same view of Sint Unum where we were concerned, where the community of the Fathers of St Louis and the Sisters of St Louis were concerned. Sint Unum was there, but he enters into some details as to how he sees Sint Unum becoming embodied in the life of the community.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he really goes into some details. It sounds kind of romantic how they take pleasure in each other's success and each other's spiritual progress. There's the human element running through the whole thing. That's important in both them. He also has what I might call perhaps the theological interpretation of Sint Unum, but I don't think that concerns us particularly in this instance. It's us and Sint Unum that counts. He does mention that Sint Unum, his idea is, for the church, his idea is to re-establish the unity between knowledge and faith.
Yes.
That is very strong. But I'm not going to emphasize that, because I think it requires a deeper knowledge than I have of theology, etc., etc. So I leave that to Bríd long. But it's there.
It is there, yes. In Mère Thérèse.
Mère Thérèse is very strong on Sint Unum in the community. And she says that it was Sint Unum, it was that holy word that inspired that prevented our ancestors from having two types of member in the community. She's really strong on that. And to us it doesn't seem so extraordinary, but I think in the 1840s, in the 19th century, it was very important. And in some ways it sounds easier, to have just one class of member. But it must have been very difficult in other ways, because the social cleavages were so extraordinarily different. Really extraordinary. Yes. A sister had only to open her mouth and she could be classified straight off.
Yes.
As to what group in society she belonged to. And that can't have been easy. So, whereas it was easy in some respects to have just one class of member, it must have been very difficult at times in a practical manner, and it became more difficult when there were when we had different nationalities, and the Irish dimension and the English dimension,
yes,
the African dimension. We don't know where that's going to lead us.
Indeed.
But we trust, as our ancestors did, in providence, that it will bring us to the end, and that in the very end we will be part of this vision of our Lord's, of the whole of humanity united in one.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Sint Unum is the first word and the last word. I think that's a sort of final word in a way. And we probably, I should speak for myself, meditate more on the actual text of the Last Supper, and Sint Unum, sort of bathe myself in that. There's one little point I want to make about the devotion to the Sacred Heart. In Alsace, the devotion to the Sacred Heart was there long before any place, long before St. Margaret Mary. And it was really the pierced side of our Lord,
Jesus, yes.
and the spear that, and the Christian contemplated that pierced side and entered, so to speak, into the opened heart of Jesus.
Yes.
And tried to take on the dispositions of the heart of Jesus, the love of people and the love of God. And now something else was on the edge of my mind there for half a minute.
The love of people, the love of God, the love of our universe.
Oh yes, he says somewhere, Colmar says, that we will, in times of trouble, we will creep into the heart of
That's
Jesus.
right, find refuge in the heart
Yes,
of Jesus.
find refuge in. Well, that's very much the image behind that is the opened heart.
Yes.
And you know, the wound was so open. It opened. We sometimes we have an image of a neat little incision, but you can imagine the Roman soldier had to use force, and of course he broke the side,
Yes.
the side, and there was a great wound, and the Thomas, unbelieving Thomas, was invited to put his hand.
Right.
Sometimes we don't see that.
Yes.
But it
yes.
really is something. And then to link that with taking refuge in the heart of Jesus, I think it's a very strong image.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one that will certainly inspire us as we live St Unum today.
Yes, and perhaps in times to come.
Yes,
The church, I think, is entering not a triumphant phase, but a phase where people will want to take shelter in the heart of Jesus.
Yes.
Yes. Created hope. And that's something we badly need. Hope, or confidence perhaps is a better word. I think in this time of uncertainty, and I think there are worse times coming. For instance, in Ghana and Nigeria, we don't know how strong the Muslims are going to become.
Yeah.
And we have passed the stage where Christianity was the way to success and everything. And that you really have to get to the heart of what we mean by it, and confidence, because our ancestors, take Turkenstein, what hope had they of any improvement in their lot? No hope much. Things were pretty bad for the church.
Yes.
And yet it gave them something to cling on to. And I think, really, that we're entering a very turbulent stage in Christian history.
We are, yes.
And we need something to cling to. And for us, an obvious thing is this devotion to the heart of Jesus and a confidence that, come what may, God has his own way of doing things.